want to welcome to our studios here at Calabash TV via Zoom our friends from Dominica who are here. Interestingly, as we get ready for Earth Day, and also we're in Youth Month as well, globally. And so I was in Dominica a couple of days ago, and I happened on this developing issue that was taking place there, and I said, okay, well, I know at least Garry, Auguiste, and I saw Jeanelle, Brisbane. And I said, okay, I need to reach out to Garry and see what we can have a conversation we can have, so we can have a feature for Earth Day here in Saint Lucians as well. So first of all, Garry and Jeanelle, welcome to Calabash TV.
Thank you for having us, and thank you to your listeners for tuning in.
Yes. Jeanelle, you are a conservation biologist, and you're also part of an organization called Represent Wild Dominic. You will tell us a little bit more about that in just a while. And Garry, also you have a connection with Wild Dominic. You're also a conservation biologist. I know you have a lot more titles, which we can probably put on the screen later on, but we want to make sure that we let the audience know who we are talking to and so on. And a name that we will be hearing quite a bit, it's Deux Branches. And then we'll talk a little bit about the Kalinago territory as well, and also the international airport in Dominica, a massive, I drove through and I saw this massive event, activity happening there. And so I decided I wanted to have a chat with Garry and Jeanelle to get a sense on since your interview. And I must say that I saw the interview that you did with Ernesto Cook, and I think he referenced another interview you had done earlier. So I would encourage our audience to at least go check the Ernesto Cook podcast that he did with you. And also he made reference to another podcast I think you had done before. Which one was that?
Yes, with Mrs. Weeks out of Barbados.
This week. Yeah, we did that the week before Ernesto.
Right. So you can go check that out as well. So if you want background to the issue we'll be discussing, you can check out Ernesto and also the week's podcast in Barbados as well.
Mining, if allowed to continue, can permanently destroy this landscape. Mining does not just take rock, it destroys habitats for animals. It destroys vegetation that protects the hills. And without roots, erosion increases, which means more landslides, more muddy rivers, more affected fish and people alike. The people of this island deserve development, but development should not come at the cost of destroying what you already have. By destroying the peace and livelihood of the people you are developing for. We are the Nature Island. This is more than just a nickname. It's a responsibility. So let us choose wisely. Let us protect that which makes us unique. Let us keep the Nature Island, the Nature Island.
Jeanelle, I probably want to start with you. Since that interview with Ernesto Cook, pardon the pun, what movement has there been? Because I know there's earthworks movements and so on. What movement has there been since that interview in terms of the issue that you're fighting in Dominica and the official reaction to it?
Yeah, so since Ernesto, what happened right before Ernesto is that we actually got our hands on the environmental social impact assessments, and we submitted a long list of comments surrounding all the gaps within that assessment. But what has happened since is that they have actually moved against the stop order and against physical planning's notice, I guess, to implement some of these mitigation techniques. Like they've installed what they would consider as sediment traps and gabion baskets. And over the weekend, we went to do our own monitoring and found out that their mitigation measures are, for lack of a better word, very ineffective. But what we are also extremely concerned about moving forward, if these mitigation measures are not working out, if they're not effective, and their own water quality samples found high traces of mercury, arsenic, and bacteria, a number of different types of bacteria in our water around this site, what is to then become of the community if nobody is paying the necessary mind to the runoff that is happening from the site. So they're actually not operating at the site right now. There's a stop order in place, but because they've already excavated about 20 acres of land in an area that is sulfide rich, which means there's a lot of heavy metals that could potentially run off, exposing this land. If we're already seeing these elevated levels, that's a far beyond safe drinking water levels by WHO standards, what then becomes of the community? So this is kind of where our campaign is moving into, figuring out how do we best protect our community if something else were to come.
Protecting nature isn't anti-development. It's recognizing that environmental health is economic health. Ecotourism, sustainable agriculture, clean water, these are real investments.
Okay, so Garry, let me throw in a couple other names there, and we'll put it. I'm trying to get everything into context. The Concord River. As well. So,
yes.
Give us an idea. So first of all, there's this airport construction going on, and there's this mining that's taking place. Where exactly is the mining taking place, and why was that mining taking place, and what's the connection to the airport?
Mining, if allowed to continue, can permanently destroy this landscape. Mining does not just take rock. It destroys habitats for animals. It destroys vegetation that protects the hills. And without roots, erosion increases, which means more landslides, more muddy rivers, more affected fish and people alike. The people of this island deserve development, but development should not come at the cost of destroying what you already have. By destroying the peace and livelihood of the people you are developing for. We are the Nature Island. This is more than just a nickname. It's a responsibility. So let us choose wisely. Let us protect that which makes us unique. Let us keep the Nature Island, the Nature Island.
Deux Branches is 10 minutes away from where I live. I live in the village of Concord, which half of the village of Concord is situated in the Kalinago territory. So it's shared between the Marigot constituency and the Kalinago territory. And so living 10 minutes away and being a conservationist and seeing the damage that's going on in the forest, that's kind of what sparked our curiosity in what's going on, because being from the community, I didn't hear anything. We were not informed that this project was about to happen, and we were seeing a lot of river pollution, water pollution in the water because of the runoff from all the excavation, the deforestation, and the removal of the topsoil. There was no meetings before the excavation began. Meetings after the river is already polluted and the forest is gone is not consultation, that is damage control. Then we were told the ESIA is still being written, it isn't approved, and we can clearly see that the project is fully underway. This is not a testing phase, it is the project. And an ESIA cannot be done during development. Its purpose is to predict impacts, not write them down after. You can't ask a river for permission after you have polluted it. Deux Branches is situated in the headway of what we call the Pegua River. The Pegua River runs through the village of Concord and ends at the Pegua Bay into the Atlantic Ocean. It's called Deux Branches because it's two branches that meet together, two river branches, and they create the Pegua River. So now the quarry or the mine is less than 100 meters away from it. And it's on the hillside. So the river is the lowest point. So you have a huge excavation work on the hillside and all the runoff runs into the water in the headway of a river system. And so if pollution happens up there, it affects the community, it gets down into the community. And our rivers were dirty for months, every day.
I grew up as a child bathing in that river, and now that we are seeing the river is always dirty because of that work that is going on in Deux Branches, and I don't think it is fair to the Concord people.
And we actually got a stop order in place in December. So the major excavation work has halted, and the river has appeared clean right now. But from reports that we're finding that it appears clean, but there are dangers to it, which you could get into a bit further. But Deux Branches is situated right here, right? And the river is next to it. But north of the quarry side is the Northern Forest Reserve, which is protected lands of Dominica, or forest reserves were put in place to protect the headways of our watersheds. And we have proof that they have encroached on the Northern Forest Reserve, which they need permission for.
We are on the borders of a national park. And also we are bordered by a major river. And on the other side of the river, we have an indigenous community, and we also have residents downstream. So we're taking this intervention very, very seriously.
They also told us that they were going to create a 50-meter buffer zone to prevent any encroachment, but they can't do that anymore because they are clearly encroached within the Northern Forest Reserve. So that was actually one of the first things that raised our alarms, that I did surveys in that area. I walked through the Northern Forest Reserve for work, and I know where it was. So to look at the developer, the engineer, and he's telling me, no, they're not nowhere near the Northern Forest Reserve boundary, and they're near the Central Forest Reserve boundary. I was like, no, you are clearly at the northern, because you clearly don't have the map right. And we had to deal with the environmental engineer to kind of correct him on where they actually were. So that was like the first few red flags that were raised when we started questioning the authorities.
There will be environmental impacts, and some of them can be very, very visible. The river being brown, being dirty, the causeways being muddy, but we are mindful that we are doing this development, mindful that we can do the mitigation methods. No one remembers this space after 1979 because the forest took over. The developers at the time backfilled this entire space, and that's why this soil is very, very loose. And we forgot that it was an active quarry for some time.
So did an encroachment take place after the stop order?
Before.
It happened before?
Before, yes. Mm-hmm. Yeah, we noticed it in, I would like to say, September. Mm-hmm. They were up on the ridge already around that time, and nobody knew what's going on. I think one of our past chief planning officers actually raised the alarm near the end of September, and then the Kalinago chief also raised the alarm in October, like, hey, what's going on? All this deforestation is happening, and nobody knows what this project is about. We later then started getting community meetings in December. This is after months of damage. Made a mistake, in November. We started having meetings in November. And it's in those meetings that we learned from the developer's environmental engineer that this project is to mine for stone aggregate to complete the international airport of Dominica. And so I said, okay, if that's what it's going to do, then why were we not informed? Why are we hearing this after you have damaged our river, cleared our forests? You have not consulted anybody in the community. Nobody in the community feels consulted in any way. And so that's when the campaign really started. It started before, but that's where it really started to move a gear, because that's when we started to get information from the engineer. And it was like, this is crazy that you guys are doing all this without letting the people know. All this environmental damage, and nobody's asking any questions.
So Jeanelle, who issued that stop order?
Yeah, so who issued the stop order? Let me just start with there. The stop order came in place after we had put out a series of videos that actually went viral in Dominica and abroad. And I think the pressure that was built up from that, when the attention was turned onto the site and the lack of permission that the site had, it had forced physical planning to act. So the physical planning authority is, physical planning division, environmental health, agriculture, lands and surveys, and a couple other institutions all came together and signed the stop order that said, okay, we're going to prevent them from operating at the site because they have no permission and they have to wait for the proper authority before anything proceeds.
So my question is, what approval do you currently have to operate at the site, and who has granted you this permission?
Thank you for your question. And if I don't respond to any component of it, then you can just reiterate. Okay, this is the last question from what I understand.
We actually had no information that this site was linked to the airport in any way. We have not seen any environmental social impact assessments or actual scientific or geotechnical studies for the airport. So there was nothing that would have alerted us to the connection, or at least raise the alarm in advance for us to know that this was coming.
Let's look at what did happen. August 2025, excavation begins. Heavy machinery arrives. Deforestation, no public consultation. We don't know what's going on in the village. We just see people up in the mountains grading and removing stuff. September to October, door-to-door surveys by an environmental engineer. But they're doing this while the river is being polluted. The damage already started. These consultations should have happened before. November, the first community meet. Only the environmental engineer was present. No representative from Ministry of Environment, Physical Planning, Forestry Division, and the residents were told, do not record this meeting. You are not given permission to record this meeting. It's a public consultation meeting, is it not?
We had no idea what was going on until the river turned brown. And if you know anything about Dominica's rivers, our rivers are not brown. And it stayed brown for about 3 months. So people were really like, what is happening here? They cleared about 20 acres of land. The community was never informed, never aware. I mean, Dominica, by extension, was not aware. And it's because we have put this pressure on the situation that it forced their hand into having a meeting with us to then start dishing out some of this information. But every single month we're learning something new. We're learning more about the intention. They initially started with 80 acres. When we plotted it, it turns out that they wanted 160 acres. Now they've brought it down to about 26 acres of land. So our question is, well, if you only needed 26 acres in the first place, why were you trying to take our 160 acres? And 160 acres is the size of our capital city in the middle of our rainforests. Half of that was protected lands in Northern Forest Reserve, protecting one of Dominica's largest rivers. So again, when we look through that documents, you can tell that their ESIA did not take into consideration at all any costs to the community, any costs to livelihoods, any costs to the environment, long-term costs. The only thing that it considered was this site is not too far from the new airport site. That's the only cost. But the cost to people's lives and the cost to the environment and the cost to future generations that would have to bear the negative impacts of this project was not considered, not one bit.
Even under conservative assumptions, the mine's net positive value minus the benefit cost was negative. In other words, the environment would pay more than the island could ever earn from the mines. When environmental costs were left out, the mine looked profitable. But once you added environmental costs in, it collapsed. That is a trap for short-term economics. When you only measure money, everything else seems free.
Who authored the impact assessment?
Yeah, so actually the same environmental engineer that Garry spoke about, who had the community meeting, who works for the developer, is the one who wrote the environmental social impact assessment, who conducted the surveys, who calibrated the equipment, who did all the community. We call him a super expert, because he's the only name listed as doing anything for the environmental social impact assessment. They have yet to name another technical person who has assisted with this project.
Let's start from the top. An ESIA, or an environmental and social impact assessment, measures how a project affects land, water, wildlife, and community. It isn't paperwork, it is the permission slip. It must be completed before any machine is on site. No ESIA, then by law, the project should not start.
We talk about the ESIAs. We've been asking for this since we first met the engineer. That was in November, so we've been asking for it.
Hotels over 12 rooms. Any industrial plant likely to cause significant environmental impact. And right here, look at that. Quarrying and mining. It's the law. So if hotels need an ESIA, then a mine near a forest reserve and a river above a community definitely needs an ESIA.
And then we finally get the ESIAs in March. So it took months before we could actually see it. And then they gave us only 2 weeks to read it. So we actually went, sorry?
Why the limitation of 2 weeks? Because I'm sure it's a very thick document. From what I heard, Ernesto said it's almost like 1,000 pages.
It's a very big document, and it was actually 4 ESIAs, 3 for the Stonefield or the Deux Branches one, and 1 for Crapper Hall, which is another quarry site that's lower down the road. But what we were interested in, our team was interested, was the Stonefield one. So it was over 800 pages to read within 2 weeks before the window is closed to leave comments.
So you want
because you need to leave comments. Yeah.
Were you given a copy of the report?
Sorry?
When you say you had 2 weeks to read it, you had to return the report? Or what?
No, we were not given any copy. The ESIAs were just in the office, and we could only go there between 8 to 5 p.m., and we were not allowed to leave with it or scan it or print it ourselves. But the Friday before the Monday, when we were going to get access, we asked the chief of planning, can we take pictures? Because it's unfair that it's only available 9 to 5 on weekdays, and you're giving us 2 weeks, so essentially 10 days to actually read through all these documents. And he said, yes, you can take pictures. So Monday morning, we went in, a team of us, and we took a picture of every single page of those documents, and we converted them into PDFs, and then we distributed to everybody that we knew, everybody who knows these technical aspects of it, engineers, ecologists, biologists, social workers, anybody to help us read through those documents. And because we did that, they actually banned us. So we tried to go back into the office, and they told us, you guys are not allowed in this office anymore because of what you did. But the ESIAs are public documents.
It's supposed to be, yeah.
So we just made it better access to the community.
Another reason why we scanned the documents, not just because we were only given an hour and a half to view it at a time, but because the impacted communities, so the Kalinago community and the Margaret community on the other side of the river, they should have access to our copies within the affected community. But physical planning authority actually took the decision to not make a copy available to them. So we thought it was really important to digitize it, but also to print out a copy and to place it at the council's office so that the people who are most impacted or most affected by the development works would have access. So we essentially got banned for making a public document public and giving people freedom of access.
This is straight from the Dominica Physical Planning Act. No person shall commence development without first obtaining development permission, meaning you cannot start work unless it has been approved. Section 23 says an ESIA is required for any project likely to significantly affect the environment. Because an ESIA forces developers to answer, how will the river be protected? Where does the waste go? What happens during heavy rainfall? How will the blasting affect nearby homes? And what is the long-term effect after the mining stops?
Is there an environment
Yes,
minister?
we have a Minister of Environment, and he's actually also the parliamentary representative of the Kalinago territory. So he knows the area well. He drives through there every morning to go to Roseau, to the capital. So he's aware of it, but he has given his support for the project in terms of that it should be carried out because the airport is very important.
We are very mindful that there's a public concern as to what's happening here within this space, the Deux Branches quarry space, and so our response to the concerns is to connect with the developer and to have them to understand that there are scientifically proven methods of keeping this space intact while we do the quarrying process. The fact remains that this area has the best quality material that is needed for moving the project forward. The assessments have been done, and this comes from the previous intervention in 1979 when this place was quarried to resurface parts of the Douglas Charles Airport. You can well imagine that if you have to transport material from the West Coast, the number of communities you're going to affect. The road network will be destroyed as well. The infrastructure that is being built. So we keep talking about it. We don't have to go to university and stuff. But I think it's also important that even driving a truck through the Kalinago space when we did the East Coast Road, it affected a number of communities. So this close proximity of that quarry to the airport project will help. We're on top of this, the Ministry of Environment. We are doing the best with the science that we have.
So the Environment Minister, who's also the MP, has supported the project and has not supported the activities or the concerns of his constituents.
He has not actually met with the people who are concerned. No, he has not met with the people of Concord, the most affected community We have invited him to, when we had our big community meeting, to talk about the information that we were uncovering, but also to present to the community what the findings were initially in the original meetings with the developer. He was invited. He did not show up. Garry has done a number of other community meetings within the Kalinago territory through another organization who also invited the Ministry of Environment to speak. So both the Save Deux Branches team and the Ministry of Environment would be there, and it would be a balanced discussion. And he never showed up, or no representative of the Ministry of Environment showed up to any of those community hearings either.
As a member of the Kalinago Council, as a leader of Kalinago Cultural Group, as a council person, I'm Dominican, as an artist, I think it is fair and dishonest and disrespectful that this mining and this quarry, whatever is happening.
I don't want to be too emotional, but really and truly, as somebody who was involved, in the sustainable management of our environment, it really hurts. It hurts my eyes, my heart, my soul, my entirety to see this disaster that we are creating, human beings are creating.
When people who have been given the privilege of administering the well-being of Mama are instead allowing her to be raped and destroyed.
We are calling on this government right now to stop lying to the people and tell the people the truth. The people need to know what is going down. We have no qualms with no one. We have no war with no one. But just a little man stand up and say, we need to know what is taking place here and who is responsible, because what we learn from ourselves, from experience, looking at it, we recognize that the government is being controlled by international entities.
We have to lead, and I intend to lead because I have children, and I have family, and I intend to lead. I don't care nothing about them kind of thing.
I mean, this is crazy. And this thing is legalized. It is protected. You cannot just go into our protected areas. It started at Cabarets. We sat down, we did nothing. Now it's moving. Where else will it go? It already went into the Mount Wapito National Park. We are losing everything that we cherish dearly, which our forefathers protected for us.
So has this matter become going up the ranks? Has this matter now been, I'm sure it has been drawn to the attention of the Prime Minister. What has been the official government reaction to the findings, first of all, what you've come up with, and also what the demands are in terms of the project and its impact and so?
Yeah, so the Prime Minister is aware. He actually came to the site in December. So by that time, we had already started posting videos, and our videos were doing very good and got a lot of public attention. And the Prime Minister came to the Deux Branches site and had a press release, press conference with several other ministers. He had the government media there, and nobody in the community was aware that the Prime Minister was doing this. He did it very early, like 7 a.m. in the morning, and he stayed on the site for like 15, 20 minutes, and they were gone. So by the time we knew about it, the Prime Minister had already left the site. However, it is recorded, so we knew what he said, and he basically said that he's putting a halt to the project because it's come to his attention that there has been some river pollution and they need to have proper mitigation measures. And so they're going to go back basically to the drawing board to ensure that whatever they excavate from here is done properly and doesn't harm the environment, but also emphasize that Deux Branches is the site that we need to complete the airport with, because this is the site that has the best rocks, the densest rocks to complete the airport. And since then, we have yet to see any proof of that. We have not seen any geotechnical report to prove otherwise that this rock is better than any other rock on the island. And why choose Deux Branches of all places?
We have been building Guadeloupe. Guadeloupe and Martinique import the stones and the rocks here from Dominica, and they've literally built their country from what they import from us. And they're getting it from the other quarries. So we have an international airport that all of a sudden cannot use the same rocks to build an airport.
Well, I'm here today to see for myself what's going on and to assess the concerns that have been raised by members of the public. I do not believe that we should appear to be dismissing the views expressed by the public. I think we need to sift through the comments made that have been made so far and to see how those can be addressed and how those can be responded to. To not extract the stones here would have a serious negative impact on the airport. It would have a significant delay, and there are no other areas around that you can get the quality of stones. You may have to import the aggregate. That's going to have a huge impact on the cost, and if the cost becomes prohibitive, then the question is, can you push to the airport? But the reality is, my only appeal to the general public is that we have to appreciate why this is being done. This is being done to facilitate the international airport, and for us in Dominica to see the kind of economic growth in the country, to take our GDP from $2.02 billion to $3 and $4 billion in the next 5 years. You're going to need an international airport. You're going to need capacity to be able to bring people in, because with 72,000 people, you do not have sufficient people to consume the goods and services. It is not the first time that we have had a quarry operation in Dominica. We've had several. And in everything you do, there'll be an impact on the environment. Whether you're building a home, whether you're building a school, whether you're building a hospital, whether you're building a road, a footpath, a retaining wall, you see, there's going to be environmental impact.
When I came here, I was expecting three things. I asked the Prime Minister yesterday when I met with him and his team for three things. One, the environmental social impact study, that we need to have a copy of it. Secondly, we need to have the confirmation letter from planning saying that they have the go ahead to do the project. And thirdly, the report stating that this is the only area you can get the best rocks. So we need this information in order to be able to work with you. And we also need to have consultation.
And Bernard, to add to what Garry is saying, the project, the operation happening at Deux Branches is actually from the office of the Prime Minister. They are the overseer of the works. So it's not a matter of moving up the ranks. His office is responsible for the works happening at Deux Branches. And then next to him is the developer, which is Montreal Management Consultants Development Limited. They're a company based in Dubai, and under them is the contractors China Railway Engineering Group number 5. So the Chinese ambassador has also come out, just like the Prime Minister. The government has released a series of press statements to essentially combat the work that we are doing, this youth movement. They've labeled us as troublemakers, misinformation spreaders, anti-development, anti-government. They're saying that we are too emotional. This is what is being thrown at us.
Opposition and
we are literally just here concerned about the safety of our community and the rights of our people, and ensuring that freedom of information, a healthy environment, clean water, clean air, all of these things are basic human rights. And as the youth in Dominica, who is experiencing a world going through rapid climate change, we just want to be able to survive until tomorrow. We want to be able to experience a place that our parents and grandparents did. We don't want to go through a war over water. Saint Lucia is going through issues right now. We don't want to see Dominica get to that point. And so that's what we're fighting for. The Chinese ambassador came out not too long ago. He had his own press release where he accused us of slandering the Chinese government, because we have been saying that they have no permission to operate at the site, which, we only state what we can factually prove. And we have documentation, there's a stop order from physical planning. That's an official Government of Dominica paperwork that says the stop order and compliance notice is hereby given to CR5, that's the Chinese company, because they have gone ahead and done works without the permits to operate or to break ground or do anything for that matter. So we are literally utilizing our government documents to spread the information and to tackle this issue, but they are coming back at us and accusing us of slander and stating that they have their permits, but the documents say otherwise. Physical Planning issued another document with 4 pages of comments that the developer is to address to complete the application. And then our government put out a series of FAQs to try and combat the information that we're putting out there, where they also stated that they are working on the permit for quarries. Like, you have to have a mining or quarry permit or license in Dominica to operate a quarry. And they're stating that they're currently in the process of applying for that permit. So not only do they not have a development permit, but they also do not have a quarry permit. There's no permission of any kind. And then we got the PS of Housing, who governs physical planning. When they were putting out all these press statements at one of the site visits that Garry and I had gone to as technical advisors for the Kalinago Council, we had also recorded the statements made by our government officials then. So after they came out with all these press statements saying that we were spreading misinformation, we also publicized our statements that were made by the government officials at the site. And in that statement, the PS of Housing clearly stated that their authority, their authorizing statement to the developer and the contractor was, proceed, we hand you over the site. And he said, yeah, that was their authority, that was their permit statement, I guess. No permission from physical plan or anything. It was literally the government apparently saying, proceed, we hand you over the site. And the PS made it very clear that the only issue surrounding this whole operation, after we confronted him on this being an illegal operation because there's no permission, and we proved to him with the Forestry Division that it did in fact encroach on the Northern Forest Reserve. After that was proven to him, he said that the only issue here, not the illegal operation, but the only issue is that the public was not informed.
The Ministry of Tourism has noted recent public commentary regarding activities at Deux Branches and matters related to the Northern Marine Development.
This can't be good, because when I first saw this, I'm saying, okay, it's Dominica's brand, is the Nature Isle, and so on.
Our rivers, reefs, forests, and marine ecosystems are not only national treasures, they are integral to our tourism identity and to the Nature Island brand we consistently safeguard.
I've met taxi drivers who have asked me questions like, what's going on? Because they want to tell their guests what's going on, because Dominica being the Nature Isle destination, you're going to attract certain tourists who are eco-tourists, who love nature, love the environment.
They were just very concerned about the impacts it's going to have on our brand, the long-term impact it's going to have on the ecosystem, and the lack of access to information surrounding it, so that we can all use our technical expertise and organizations to assist and make the best use of the situation.
On Deux Branches, the government acted swiftly and decisively. The Prime Minister ordered an immediate pause in operations to facilitate a full technical review.
Our nature island, place where mountain meets ocean. This is our pride, our identity. But on the borders of the forest reserve in the Deux Branches area, a cancer is growing. Mining, if allowed to continue, can permanently destroy this landscape. Mining does not just take rock, it destroys habitats for animals. It destroys vegetation that protects the hills. And without roots, erosion increases, which means more landslides, more muddy rivers, more affected fish and people alike. The people of this island deserve development, but development should not come at the cost of destroying what you already have. by destroying the peace and livelihood of the people you are developing for. We are the Nature Island. This is more than just a nickname. It's a responsibility. So let us choose wisely. Let us protect that which makes us unique. Let us keep the Nature Island the Nature Island.
Garry and Jeanelle, you've been an inspiration. I'm sure you'll continue to be an inspiration for generations to come. We appreciate the work that you do, and we would like our audience certainly to, you'll give us in a while any social media platforms that they can go to get, because we want our audience to get information as well, to be able to see it for yourself. We also want them to go to the government website and the social media as well to see what is it that they're saying, to see if there is a case that the government has that is probably misunderstood and so on. So we want the audience to be well informed. Jeanelle and Garry, give us an idea of where we can get more additional information on the work that you're doing.
To get more information, we go by the name Team Save Deux Branches or Save Deux Branches, and we have a website called, it's on savedeuxbranches.org. We also created a Proton Drive, and that's where you'll find all our information that we have gathered. Where you're going to get information more about us is on our Facebook or Instagram page. We'll share everything there. We'll also have the links on all of our posts. So if you want to get access to the drive, you can find the link on our Facebook page. We're still working on the website.
Our platforms are at Save Deux Branches. So everything we do goes by our campaign name at Save Deux Branches. So that's Facebook, Instagram. The website is savedeuxbranches.org. You can email us at savedeuxbranches@proton.me. But yeah, just to emphasize and summarize, we are leading this campaign the way we wish to be led, with transparency, with accountability. So everything we do is with the community. It's out in the open. Access to information is a basic human right. And we seem to be going through this chapter of human history in the Caribbean where transparency is a privilege instead of being treated as a basic human right.
This isn't politics, this is a process, and this is people, and this is the country that calls itself the Nature Isle. If there was ever a moment for accountability, it is now.
And you need to stand up here in Deux Branches. Like I say, we must stop that. Don't be afraid, because you have no weapon in your hand. We must stop this, and we must stop it now.
Be encouraged, be fortified. If Dominica is your mama, you know who your father is. And with that kind of parenthood, the Kalinago have shown us for thousands of years, mama and the father kept them safe and well, and they protected Dominica for us and our ancestors. We can do no less.
I wish you guys all the best. I wish there were happier circumstances for Earth Day and Youth Month, but these are good signs in terms of the future. We keep saying the future is in good hands, and we are pretty encouraged and inspired by what we see happening here. And keep doing what you're doing, and we'll keep our conversations going.
Thank you, Bernard, and thank you for giving us access to your platform and to your networks as well. We greatly appreciate that.